Obama can't stop spending, the radical left won't stop their crusade of personal attacks against the Tea Party. So we now have the Tea Party from Hell Award. Isn't that wonderful? Our first nominee is a doozy. Yeah, I know I'm not all that pretty, but come on, give me a break. Allegedly, he works for you, our first nominee. That's Tavis Smiley. There is nothing that has ever happened in Tavis Smiley's life that was even mildly negative that wasn't driven by racism and hatred of Tavis Smiley because of his skin color. If he gets a massage and they press a little too hard, the massage therapist is a racist unless they're black, in which case they're an Uncle Tom. Now, last May 25th, he was interviewing an author, Ayaan Hirsi Ali, about radical Muslims, and she made a pretty innocent observation, triggering a broadside from out of nowhere from Tavis Smiley against the Tea Party, equating them with bloodthirsty terrorists. Here, watch this.
Somehow, the idea got into their minds that to kill other people is a great thing to do and that they would be rewarded in the hereafter.
But Christians do that every single day in this country.
Do they blow people up every single day?
Yes, Christians every day. People walk into post office. People walk into post offices. They walk into schools. That's what Columbine is. I could do this all day long. There are folk in the Tea Party, for example, every day who are being, recently arrested for making threats against elected officials, for calling people nigger as they walk into Capitol Hill, for spitting on people. That's within the political, that's within the body politic of this country.
How many of you knew that the shootings at Columbine were a Christian attack? And how many of you knew that going postal, it's not because you work for the post office and you're just, by the way, that's the hotel used to be a post office building. But how many of you knew that that was all Christian-based attacks? You see, this is the guy ignoramus the phrase was developed for. Now, all of the by the way, well, I'll get to this. All of the Tea Party haters out there in the land of the living leftward brain dead, there's no more consistent Tea Party basher than the recently departed, too bad he's not lobster food, Keith Olbermann. By the way, excuse me, but speaking of lobster food, why didn't they dump bin Laden in the Dead Sea? Now, that's not from me, but well, we buried him at sea. What sea? The Dead Sea, you dummy, of course. But Keith Olbermann is an entire award. He has one reserved just for himself. He's also a finalist, though, in this category, March 22nd last year, Mr. Nice Guy, Let It Fly, stringing together one of the longest lists of personal insults and attacks in the history of mudslinging. Here's Keith
Racism
Olbermann.
is not the whole of the Tea Party, it is in its heart, along with blind hatred, a total disinterest in the welfare of others, and a full-flowered, self-rationalizing refusal to accept the outcomes of elections, or the reality of democracy, or the narrowness of their minds and the equal narrowness of their public support. On Saturday, that support came from evolutionary regressives like Michelle Bachmann and John Voight. On a daily basis, that support comes from the racists and homophobes of radio and television, the Michael Savages and the Rush Limbaughs.
What a preface. We have in this country racism, bigotry, and prejudice. And if you asked that fool to define the difference between the three, he couldn't do it. If you took everything he knows about the definitions of those three words and shoved them up an ant's ass, they'd rattle around like a BB in a boxcar. He either needs decaf or lithium. And his 18 viewers on whatever the heck channel he's on right now, you know, one car wreck and he can use half of his viewership. And our final nominee for the Tea Party from Hell Award, Bob Schieffer, CBS, March 21st, last year, Face the Nation. And listen carefully, where this guy who insists he's not a liberal methodically repeats every fabricated accusation against the Tea Party and just presents them as the absolute truth. He's reporting on Tea Party members exercising rights of free speech, but with a negative spin that caused Keith Olbermann to walk up after the show and ask for his autograph. Here we go with Bob Schieffer.
A year-long debate that's been rancorous and mean from the start turned even nastier yesterday. Demonstrators protesting the bill poured into the halls of Congress shouting, "Kill the bill," and "Made in the USSR." And as tempers rose, they hurled racial epithets, even at civil rights icon John Lewis of Georgia, and sexual slurs at Massachusetts Democrat Barney Frank. Other legislators said the protesters spit on them, and one lawmaker said it was like a page out of a time machine.
What a load of horse squeeze. Now, John Lewis has been a friend of mine for 30 years, and he flat out told me that he did not hear anybody yell a racial epithet at him. There were TV cameras and microphones all over the place. Not one audio, not one video of a racial epithet being hurled at a congressman. Not one picture or video of anybody being spit on. Although, I'm sorry to the front table here. And in referring to Barney Frank, Bob Schieffer ought to be careful not to say that he slurs his words. If anybody was getting spit on, it was the guy in front of Barney Frank. Now, this one is tough to judge, and it went down. Actually, there was one judge's final ballot, and since I'm always the last one to get my ballot in, it might have been me. Let me see. To living evidence that Congress should not be forcing the American taxpayer to fund PBS, the Tea Party Award from Hell award goes to Tavis Smiley.
It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it.
There are folk in the Tea Party, for example, every day who are being, recently arrested for making threats against elected officials, for calling people nigger as they walk into Capitol Hill, for spitting on people.
It's the end of the world as we know it. I feel fine. 6 o'clock TV hour, no
Tavis Smiley couldn't be here tonight because the Media Research Center wouldn't fly him first class, which made them, of course, racist. So to accept the Tea Party from Hell Award on behalf of Tavis Smiley, two people most qualified, and these people, I think, look, they truly are heroes. I was talking to the young lady I'm going to be introducing in a second, and a couple of years ago she was cleaning houses with her husband to keep a roof over their head instead of begging for government help. Was a computer programmer, absolutely one of my heroes. Here are the founders of the Tea Party Patriots, ladies and gentlemen, Jenny Beth Martin and Mark Meckler.
Houses, and not just were we not taking government money or begging for it, it actually was dangled out in front of us in the form of Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac and we turned it down. And we see this week that they are 8.7 billion in the hole for the first quarter, and they're asking for 8.5 billion.
So, you know, it's really an honor to be up here in front of you guys accepting this award on behalf of Tavis Smiley. And Tavis would like to be here himself, but he makes it a habit of not actually speaking with real Tea Partiers, only speaking poorly of them behind their backs. And we did actually reach out to him. We spoke to his spokespeople, and they told us that while he would like to come, he's fearful that if he stood in a room full of America-loving, Bible-thumping, Tea Party shouting patriots, that he'd be infected with a disease that liberals call patriotism.
For those of you who don't know, Tavis Smiley has a show on NPR, The Tavis Smiley Show, which makes it an especially exciting and timely because Tavis is such a great example of the broadcast excellence demonstrated by NPR. And it is the year of NPR, isn't it? Standing here tonight, it's a great feeling to know that my tax dollars and yours go to support this kind of balanced and unbiased journalistic excellence. And to make sure they keep getting our tax dollars, they just hired a lobbyist this week to secure the money.
So, and we want you guys to understand the depth of character of Tavis Smiley. You know, this is a nice award, but it's not Tavis's first award. Apparently, for 3 consecutive years, Tavis has received an award from the NAACP called the Image Award for the best news, talk, or information show. And of course, we all know what a great friend and a fair advocate for the Tea Party movement the NAACP is.
And in conclusion, by accepting the Tea Party from Hell Award on behalf of Tavis Smiley, we'd like to thank him for his unbiased commentary, his honesty and integrity, and his unwavering commitment to the fair reporting of the Tea Party movement. We'd like to, but we can't.